When you're in love, time plays tricks on you. Some moments feel like they stretch on forever, others pass in a blink, and you're not just imagining it, your brain is literally warping your sense of time. Researchers have found that people deeply in love often report experiencing distorted time perception, especially when they're around the person they love. Minutes feel like hours, hours vanish in what feels like seconds. This is because love activates parts of the brain associated with attention and reward, while also affecting areas tied to temporal judgment, the way we track time. When you're with someone you love, your brain becomes hyper-focused on the present moment. It tunes out distractions. It stops scanning for the future. It stops replaying the past. And what happens when your brain is fully immersed in now? Time blurs. Think of those long, lingering conversations that seem to float outside of time, or those dates where you lose track of the hour and suddenly it's 2 a.m. That's your prefrontal cortex easing up and your dopamine-driven reward system soaking up every second. It's similar to what psychologists call flow state, when you're so deeply engaged in something that time falls away. Except in this case, the something is someone. But it's not just about togetherness. Even when you're apart, love can mess with your sense of time. Waiting for a text back feels like forever. Missing someone, the days seem to drag. Why? Because your brain is now wired to anticipate reward from that person. When they're absent, it creates a kind of emotional disruption, which your brain interprets as a signal that something is missing. And that missing feeling can amplify time itself. It's why a weekend without them can feel longer than a work week. Why you check your phone more. Why 5 minutes can feel unbearable if you were expecting to hear from them 3 minutes ago. And it gets even more intense during heartbreak. People often describe the early days of a breakup as achingly slow, because their brain is adjusting to the loss of reward, and the emotional weight makes every moment feel heavier. But when you're together, when things are good, when you're laughing or holding hands or just sitting quietly, your brain isn't counting minutes. It's soaking in the experience. Love doesn't run on clocks. It runs on moments, and your brain, in its deep, mysterious way, knows the difference. Love doesn't just stir up butterflies and heart flutters, it also has a surprising ability to calm your entire nervous system. Being in love, especially in a healthy, secure relationship, can actually lower your stress hormones, especially cortisol, the chemical most associated with stress and anxiety. Here's how it works. When you're feeling anxious or threatened, your body reacts through what's called the HPA axis, a system that includes your hypothalamus, pituitary gland, and adrenal glands. This axis controls your body's stress response, releasing hormones that prepare you to fight, flee, or freeze. But when you're around someone you love and trust, that whole system slows down. Your brain signals that you're safe. You don't need to be on high alert, and that safety feeling, it's not just emotional, it's chemical. Studies have shown that people in stable, loving relationships tend to have lower baseline cortisol levels. When something stressful happens, their bodies recover more quickly. Why? Because love acts like a buffer, a built-in regulator that helps the brain feel more grounded. Think about how you feel when someone you love puts their hand on your back, or when they talk you through something you're dreading. Your breathing slows, your heart rate settles. That's your parasympathetic nervous system kicking in, the one responsible for rest and relaxation. Love activates this system through oxytocin, often called the bonding hormone. Oxytocin doesn't just make you feel warm and fuzzy, it actively suppresses stress responses, helping your body return to balance more quickly after a spike. And it's not just about romantic love. This kind of calming effect shows up in close friendships, parent-child bonds, even in long-term companionship with pets. But romantic love tends to take it up a notch. That's because when it's mutual and secure, your brain associates that person with safety, comfort, and relief. Even the sound of their voice can begin to signal everything's okay. Their presence becomes a kind of emotional anchor. This is also why people in happy relationships tend to show better immune responses, lower blood pressure, and even faster healing rates. Their bodies are spending less time in survival mode and more time in recovery. It doesn't mean love erases all stress. Life still happens. But it means your brain doesn't have to do it all alone. When you have someone who helps your nervous system settle, that's more than sweet. It's medically powerful, and your brain knows it. What if I told you that the sound of your partner's voice is more rewarding to your brain than the sound of money hitting your bank account? It's true. The human brain, even in our hyper-digital, fast-paced world, still places connection over currency, especially when love is involved. In a series of studies using functional MRI scans, researchers found something remarkable. When people heard the voice of someone they loved, their brains lit up in the ventral tegmental area, the same region associated with pleasure, reward, and motivation. This is the exact same area that activates when someone receives a financial windfall, wins a game, or eats their favorite dessert. But here's the twist. For people in close, secure relationships, the sound of their partner's voice often triggered an even stronger reward response than pictures of money or signs of status. It's not just about the words, it's the tone, the rhythm, the familiarity. Your brain has learned to associate that voice with comfort, belonging, and safety. And it works both ways. When you speak to someone you love, your own brain experiences pleasure too, because expressing care lights up emotional and social processing areas. Love, it turns out, is rewarding to give and to receive. Now, this doesn't mean you'll never get a dopamine hit from a shopping spree or from crushing a work goal. Those things matter. But your brain is wired at the deepest levels to prioritize human connection over material gain. That's why a voice message from someone you care about can instantly change your mood. It's why hearing them laugh can make your whole day better. It's why a phone call after a hard moment can feel like oxygen. Your brain isn't being sentimental. It's responding to neural patterns of safety and reward that have been carved through repetition, intimacy, and trust. And there's more. When you hear your partner's voice during stress, your body releases less cortisol, and your heart rate becomes more regulated. This isn't magic, it's your auditory system and your limbic brain working together to say, you're not alone. That's also why breakups can feel so brutal. Suddenly, that voice, once a source of joy, is missing. And your brain, used to that reward loop, feels the absence like a kind of withdrawal. So yes, love affects how you think, but it also changes how you hear. And the voices we trust, they shape our experience of the world, not just emotionally, but chemically. Love doesn't shield you from pain, but it does make your brain stronger at handling it. That might sound counterintuitive. After all, love can cause some of the deepest heartbreak we ever feel. But when it's healthy, mutual, and emotionally safe, love becomes a kind of emotional armor. Not the hard, cold kind, but the soft, strong kind, like wrapping yourself in something that says, you're not alone, you're allowed to feel. You're safe. Researchers have found that people in secure, loving relationships tend to show greater emotional resilience during stressful situations. They bounce back faster, they ruminate less, and their brains actually adapt more efficiently in response to emotional pain. One key player here is the amygdala, the part of your brain that processes fear, threat, and emotional intensity. In people who are deeply in love, especially those in supportive relationships, amygdala activity is dampened during emotional stress. That means your brain still feels the pain, but it doesn't spiral as hard. It doesn't escalate the way it might if you felt emotionally alone. Why? Because love activates regulation systems in your brain, regions like the anterior cingulate cortex and the prefrontal cortex, which help manage emotion, reframe negative experiences, and regain balance. Love also boosts oxytocin and vasopressin, two hormones tied to bonding and trust. And these hormones don't just help you connect, they literally soothe the brain in moments of fear or sadness. This doesn't mean being in love makes you immune to hurt. Far from it, but it gives your brain a stronger foundation to process that hurt without collapsing under it. Think about it. When you're deeply connected to someone, you're more likely to share your thoughts out loud, to cry in front of someone, to speak your truth without the fear of rejection. That release alone helps the brain regulate. Emotional suppression, holding it all in, makes pain worse. But being in love creates space to let go of some of that weight. To be seen, to be heard, to feel safe enough to be vulnerable. And vulnerability is powerful. It tells the brain this pain can be held. I don't have to carry it alone. Love doesn't erase suffering, but it gives it context. It gives it a place to land. And in doing so, it makes the brain more adaptable, more elastic, more human. So the next time someone tells you love makes you weak, remember the science says otherwise. Love doesn't make you fragile, it makes you resilient. Love doesn't just change how you feel in the moment, it can actually reshape your brain in ways that last long after the butterflies fade. This isn't just poetic language, it's neuroplasticity, your brain's remarkable ability to rewire itself in response to new experiences, relationships, and patterns of thought. When you fall in love, and especially when you stay in love, your brain doesn't just ride the wave of dopamine and oxytocin. It starts to rebuild neural pathways that support emotional regulation, empathy, and even long-term decision-making. In other words, love isn't a moment, it's a biological process that reshapes how you respond to the world. Let's break that down. Say you fall in love with someone who listens deeply, who encourages you to pause before reacting, who makes you feel seen. Over time, those experiences strengthen your brain's pathways for self-reflection, calm, and trust. You're no longer operating from the same old reflexes. You're learning through connection to experience the world and yourself differently. Studies have shown that people in loving, emotionally safe relationships often show increased gray matter density in regions of the brain tied to emotional awareness and cognitive control. Love quite literally changes your brain's physical structure, and it can go even deeper. Long-term attachment stimulates the default mode network, a network in the brain associated with introspection, daydreaming, and social understanding. This means love doesn't just affect how we interact with others, it changes how we think about ourselves. That's why, when love is consistent and emotionally nourishing, you might notice yourself feeling more grounded, more confident, less reactive. You might even feel more you than you've ever felt before. Of course, not all relationships lead to healthy rewiring. Toxic love can rewire the brain too, but in ways that reinforce stress, anxiety, and self-doubt. That's why the quality of love matters so much. Because what you experience in love, the safety, the fear, the joy, the rupture, the repair, your brain is always watching, always adapting. Even after love ends, the impact can stay. A healthy relationship might leave behind emotional tools you carry for life, while a painful one may take time to unlearn. But the point is this: love isn't just a passing emotion, it's an experience that teaches your brain what to expect, what to reach for, what to fear, and what to trust. And when love is kind, when it is generous and real, it can literally make your brain a better place to live in.